Ninja Moonshine, Middle of the Road, podcast for meeting in the middle. All right, it's the Middle of the Road podcast with Ninja and Moonshine. Moonshine, how you doing?
I am doing pretty well. And how are you doing, Ninja?
I am awesome. Because I'm not a veteran and I'm not getting screwed over by Congress.
Uh-huh. That's a good way to lead into it. Might as well just start off with middle of the road. I'm Moonshine and he's the Angry Ninja. Go ahead, Angry Ninja.
I am so tired of self-serving politicians, and I'm gonna say Republican a lot on this, but when I say Republican on this, know that I'm not talking about the average Republican person in the world. I'm specifically talking about Republican senators who I don't know who they think they're representing anymore because they're not. So there was 3 bills. Mitch McConnell was in favor of 2 of them and not in favor of one. The one bill he's not in favor of is a version of the Build Back Better plan. They're calling it the Inflation Reduction Act. And it's actually going to do a lot of good. It's setting a corporate minimum tax, which basically says no matter what loopholes you have as a corporation, you at least have to pay 15% of your profit in taxes, which is awesome because their tax rate's already pretty low, but they loophole out of it like, well, there's one year Exxon made $200 billion and they paid 0 in taxes and actually got money from the government. So they want to close.
I've never made $200 billion in a year. I don't know how to put that on my taxes.
Right, and let alone put it on your taxes so well that the government gives you money.
Yeah, there you go.
That's awesome. So there's a lot of good things in this bill, but Mitch McConnell didn't want it to pass, so he told them if they passed this bill or even try to, he wouldn't vote on a CHIPS bill, which was a manufacturing bill for America to become a better maker of superconductor chips. Those chips were, I'm sure you've seen in the news, were short chips. China's not sending us the chips. Well, Biden wants to make it to where we make these chips in America so we don't have to depend on China for this anymore. One of those America First kind of policies. It's an amazing thing. And Michigan says, I'm going to tank this one if you try to pass the other one. So the Democrats kind of pulled a fast move where Manchin said, I'm done negotiating anyway. I'm not going to negotiate no more. I'm done. We're not going to do it. And McConnell said, cool. So they passed the chip bill. And the minute they passed the chip bill, like the same night, Manchin came back and goes, oh, wait, me and Chuck Schumer reached agreement. We're going to go ahead and pass that Inflation Reduction Act bill now. We got the votes. Which, all right, shady mood on the Democrats' part, but they had to get some stuff done. And both the bills are good for Americans. Mitch McConnell gets furious, so he immediately starts calling all the Republicans in the House of Representatives and tries to get them to tank the chip bill there, which he didn't. They said, look, this is actually good for the American people. We're sorry that you look like a turtle, but we're going to pass the bill. So they did. And it's actually on its way right now to be signed by Joe Biden, which is going to increase manufacturing in America, create jobs, and help make us not be so dependent on China. It's a great bill. Well, the next day, there was what was thought to be a ceremonial vote for a veterans bill, the PACT bill, for the veterans that are exposed to toxic burn pits. It had previously, back in June, passed in the Senate by like 84 votes. It went to the House of Representatives. They had to change one line, and it was a line that would make it to where the government couldn't use the money as a slush fund. It says it made it non-discretionary spending, that all the money put to this bill had to be spent on veterans' health care, and made it mandatory, which means it couldn't be pulled for other things like the government loves to do. And so they sent it back to the Senate, and the Senate was so butthurt, Mitch McConnell told them all to vote no on it. So it had 50 votes yes, 50 votes no, because Republicans, who are supposed to be we're for the soldiers, patriotic, we all wave the flags, go America, but fuck the veterans who need health care, who are dying of cancer from being exposed to burning jet fuel. Like, because Mitch McConnell's little turtle face got butthurt because he got outmaneuvered by Chuck Schumer. Which, if I got outmaneuvered by Chuck Schumer, I'd be butthurt too. But still, basically, Chuck Schumer did a Mitch McConnell move. He's so mad that happened that now the veterans are going to suffer. They're using veterans yet again as a pawn. Like, it's a lot like back when Mitch McConnell, when we were having the government shutdown that lasted several months when Trump was in office, and a Republican and a Democrat proposed a bill that would make sure the military still got paid even while the government was shut down, and Mitch McConnell wouldn't even allow it to be voted on because he was in charge of the Senate at that time. Can we just get rid of Mitch McConnell?
Oh, hey, he's from your state.
I've never voted for him. You know the bad part about Mitch McConnell is I don't know anybody in Kentucky. I've never met a single person who will admit to voting for him. And I'm not, oh no, it's voter fraud. No. Everybody probably does. They just hate him so much they don't want to admit it. They're just so far right in this state, so conservative, they can't even imagine voting for anything but a Republican. Like, he's been in office.
Go ahead.
Well, he's been in office for like 30 years, and Kentucky is like in every important metric that you measure a state by, poverty, homelessness, education. We're like in the bottom 5 or number 50 in every single one of those rankings. He has done nothing to help this country but build a Russian paid-for aluminum plant that his wife owns.
All right. So this is my take on what's going on with the veterans. As you know, I served as a reservist in the Army National Guard. I am close to a lot of veterans. I'd like to be closer in a lot of aspects, but as they say, it is what it is. I am beyond pissed about this, the fact that it's a pissing contest. But then my problem is that when the Democrats actually do something right, they go straight to the media, all the major media giants, they go out and say Republicans, 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 instead of concentrating on what is right. Instead, it's always a pissing match with these two.
Well, it's always a pissing match.
And that's my problem.
And you're right, but my thing is all 3 of these bills, all 3 of them, if you break down what they do and read them and look at what they're actually trying to pass, there's nothing shady in any of them. There's no, where they have those earmarks or whatever that are really bad. There's none of that in any of these bills. It's all really straightforward language. All 3 of these bills are a complete win for America.
No, I completely understand that. I'm with you on, and I'm on board on that. But I'm saying is that instead of, and this is a one-time thing right now, yes, they are. There's so much garbage out there that the Democrats have tried to push through. But what I'm trying to say is that they're both to a point now, they wonder why people get so, I guess the word disenfranchised with everything that's going on is because they are sick and tired of just the going back and forth like children. If I don't get my way, then I'm going to do this. And guess what you're doing? You're hurting people that actually defended this country, were in combat zones, burn pits. I don't know if people know a lot about this, but what was going on in Iraq, there was people that, just like I could have been, you could be stationed in an area, and then your job is solely to protect this area of operation, the AO. You're standing there and you're inhaling this smoke and all this stuff that's toxins and everything, and then you get sick, and the government steps in and figures a way how to screw. I can't tell you how many veterans are out there right now that have been screwed over by the government. Absolutely just screwed over.
It's horrible. And my problem right now, and this is with the current group of Republican senators led by Mitch McConnell. And you're right. When everything doesn't go right, the Democrats immediately rub the news and the news cover it. But my big problem right now with the current Republican senators is the Democrats are putting forth tons of bills. Tons of bills are passing through the House Representatives. Tons of bills are being proposed in the Senate. And Mitch McConnell runs the Senate, even from the minority side, because they have enough they can shut down anything they want. So nothing's passing. But whenever a bill gets proposed, the Republicans will shut that bill down right now. This is what's happening right now. And they're like, well, we don't like this bill. We don't like this. We don't like this. We don't like this. And it's a bill to solve a problem. Well, if you get a bill proposed to you, right, like say me and you were talking, and I propose an idea to solve a problem, right, and you don't think it's going to solve the problem, right, and you say, no, we're not doing that. Does the conversation end there, or do you come back out with me like, what if we try this instead, or try a mix of this
No,
and this?
yeah, because that's called being a public official and being an adult. Instead of trying to get my way, I'm going to go to you and I'm going to go, okay, well, let's look at this. And for instance, okay, so this is the budgetary, this is where we are with our budget. We can't afford to put this much in, but what if we put this much in, and then on the back end, let's take a look at the budgetary concerns.
Right.
And by no means am I now, I got to say this real quick.
Yeah.
Do you hear what me and you were talking about right now? And let me ask you, what's the percentage of Americans right now that know about what's going on with this stuff, that truly know what the bills are, that they weren't passed? All they know is, and I'm going to get to this point, Angry Ninja, I want to tell you something. When I know more, wherever you are in life, whatever you're focused on, for me, it's comedy and sports, pretty much. In your life, if you're focused on these things, this is what you know about. When I know more about my favorite football team, starting quarterback, and their statistics than I do know about what the laws that affect me as an American in this country, we have a huge problem. And that is the problem. Most Americans, damn near, I'd say 80% of Americans, couldn't tell you what law has been passed, what law has been rejected, because they are so, how do I even put this? We are drunk on entertainment. We are drunk on comfort. We no longer appreciate these things. And I know I'm getting a little off here, but it's part of the conversation, is the fact that, and I've said to you before, if you went back in time and you said, we'll say 300 years ago, so that would put us in the 1700s. So you'd be 22. There we go. God, I hate math. Okay. So 1722, if you went back in time and you asked people, and they came forward into time and they saw where we were, and they asked us, they said, when do you go to your weekly assembly to talk about the laws and the things that's going on in your area, your community, your village, if you were, I guess you would say. And you would tell them, well, my grandpa will go here and there to court and listen to what's going on. They will look at you and they will say, have you lost your minds? Are you serious? You don't know what's going on in your laws? You don't know what they're passing? You don't know what they're not passing? We are, it's almost too in your face to see it. It's too clear to see that we are drunk on comfort. We have no idea what's going on, most of us in this country.
Oh, you're 100% correct. It's amazing what people don't know. Like, when I talk to people about this stuff, they're like, they did that? I'm like, yeah, this is what they do. Like, Mitch McConnell stopped a bill to get soldiers paid. Mitch McConnell stopped a bill to get soldiers health care. All because he's butthurt. Like, they're like, does his wife really own this aluminum company paid for by a Russian oligarch? Yeah, she really does. Like, And this isn't like me making up conspiracy stuff. This is public record. It's not even hard to find. People need to be more engaged.
The people, they have no idea. They know more about what's going on in America's Got Talent. If I can tell you who's in the third or fourth round of America's Got Talent, and you are just so enthralled and excited about somebody you don't even know, but you're pulling for them because that's what people do. Most people want to see people succeed. But if I ask you, what are the laws in the state of Kentucky as far as driving, I don't know, wherever, inside of a shopping mall area, what are the laws? And they would go, so someone would tell you, okay, so your laws are, it's a 15-mile-an-hour speed limit. Understand that you can't be parked in front of an exit, a main exit of, and I'm just coming up with stuff here, but probably things that are laws. You can't be parked in an exit for over a period of time, blah, 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 and blah, blah, blah. These are laws, and we don't even know about it. We go out, we're just like pissing in the wind. We have no idea. Most of us have no clue what is going on in this country. We have no idea what the laws are, and guess what eventually that leads to? That leads to where the government, and a lot of people didn't like him. I loved him. He had his problems. Ronald Reagan, he said government isn't the solution. Government is the problem. And also Reagan, it's funny too, a lot of people love Reagan, and I know your head's going to spin on this, but a lot of people love Reagan, but Ronald Reagan, after he was shot with the Brady bill, he was very, very, he wasn't big on the Second Amendment. So a lot of people want to paint that picture of Ronald Reagan as he was this big-time leader for conservative politics, and he was, but he was not an advocate for the Second Amendment, especially after he damn near got shot and killed in an assassination attempt.
Yeah, it's amazing what being shot at will do to you about your gun rights views.
Well, it will, but my point with that is that people want to make up what their own ideas are, and I'm going to tell you, man, the more that I have been off of Facebook, the more that I have just posted my stuff on there, and I'm just being completely honest here. The more that I just put my stuff on Facebook, on my podcast page, on my regular page, and then I have a comedy page, the more that I've gotten away from all of the nonsense that is on social media, as far as, my kid's the greatest kid in the world. No, your kid's probably just burned down the damn house. My husband's amazing just after he just beats you within an inch of your life, and you go put on makeup. It's a false, and that is, we could talk about this all day long.
Oh yeah.
But it's a false world that these people are living in. And now I know I'm getting kind of going around here, but it all leads up to the fact that we are, I don't want to use the word educated anymore, because to me, educated basically says that, that I've been taught by communists to a degree, and I know that's very radical, but that's how I feel about it. But I'm just saying that we are so not locked in as the country that we should be. This is how dynasties fall, because people eventually, you just continue to get fatter and fatter and not care about what's going on. And guess what's going to happen? There's people that are watching, and they're going to care what's going on, and they're going to make laws, and then all of a sudden you don't know what the hell is going on.
And you're 100% right. But if you want a good, just, oh my God, you can't believe this person is a representative of our country right now, go to Majora Taylor Greene's Twitter and just read through that. And you'll be really disappointed in all the people of Georgia for voting for her. But you wanted to talk about something else, a different topic. And it's one of the reasons I actually brought up her Twitter, because she's recently started what she wants to call the Christian National Coalition of Republicans. And she's the reason, she's part of the reason, part of the thing that's actually counterpoint to what you wanted to talk about. And so I really wanted to tackle this topic because you're right in what you're about to say. So go ahead and hit it, and then we'll talk about why people believe what they believe.
All right, so I want to talk about today about the misconception that conservatives, and now with me, I am more and more every day independent to the right leaning. Pretty soon I may just be in the middle of the road, no pun intended. I want to talk about how there's a misconception that people that are conservative, now there is no utopia. There is no perfect world, but there is a serious lie out there, or lies, that conservatives or independent, right-leaning, what have you, hate minorities and also hate homosexuals. For the most part, we're within, I don't know, the last 40 years, you've really seen homosexuals, again, no real pun intended, but come out of the closet and come out of the dark.
Wow.
Yeah, there you go. But it's just a term that they use. But they are now accepted in society, and they should be.
Yeah.
That's the great thing about this country, is the fact that we may have based the foundation and the laws off of God, but not everybody's a Christian. And if you want to have a country where we force religion down people's throats, then that's not freedom. And that's really the opposite of freedom.
Exactly. And I know not all Republicans hate gay people. Heck, there's actually, okay, so for the record, the first part of this is true, the last part's a joke, but the first part's true. There's a group of Republicans, they started in the 2000s and the 90s, they call themselves the Log Cabin Republicans, and it's a group of gay men who are all Republicans. They call themselves the Log Cabin Republicans because they believe Abraham Lincoln was gay. Apparently, there's a whole bunch of letters Abraham Lincoln wrote between himself and an old roommate that really make you would question whether or not him and that dude were extra close. Now for the not true part. But if you think about it, Abraham Lincoln probably was gay because he did like theater and he did take a shot to the back of the head.
Oh, wow. Oh, wow. You dirty, dirty boy, you.
Sorry.
That was pretty good. That was pretty good. By the way, Angry Ninja has done some stand-up, and you can see it right there. That was a good little combination. A little uppercut, a jab, and then an uppercut.
The problem is the reason that there's this misconception that all conservative and Republicans don't like gay people is because of the news always goes to the loudest mouth. And the loudest mouth isn't always the smartest mouth. Back in the 60s, there was a group called the Christian Nationalists, and they were racist beyond all measure. That they were. They wanted to get the Jews out. Like they said all these horrible things, and they weren't good. And they were like, "Well, this is what religion in America was founded in religion." And if you actually go back when they wrote the thing, they specifically like, "No, we want separation of church and state. It's not the same thing because Christianity may not always be the dominant religion." Imagine if, like, the Church of Satan became in charge. Would you really want them the ones making the rules for you? No. That's why we keep it separate. But there's a large group, and Majora Taylor Greene's a big part of it. She wants to do the Christian National Group again. She calls herself a Christian nationalist. I don't think she knows, because I don't think she's smart enough to go in the history and look what that word means. But she's clearly stated marriage is between a man and a woman. It's only between a man and a woman. She's coming out saying, we should put church and state back together, and America should follow all the rules of the Bible. And you should be proud. And when this is the loudest voice, and this is what people are hearing, and then with what the Supreme Court justice just said, about wanting to revisit the law that made same-sex marriage legal and make it illegal again, and even make gay sex illegal again. When the loudest conservative mouths are the ones saying that, that's what people hear. And unfortunately, just like the left gets branded with a whole lot of stuff that's not accurate because of what one or two stupid people say, the same thing happens on the right. The right's getting branded where y'all are all racist and all hate gay people, when that's not the case, because of the loudest mouths being the problem and saying the dumbest things. Like, Marjorie Taylor Greene is a walking blind joke. I don't know how she breathes and walks at the same time. Some of the dumb stuff she says. Like, she is horrible. And if you want to say you're going to be a Christian nationalist, look up the history of that party before you're like, oh, I'm going to be this.
Well, anytime you hear the word nationalist, it doesn't really put a lot of excitement into people's eyes or minds.
No. And I'm with you. I don't believe that 71% of Americans, not Democrats, Americans, thinks gay marriage should be legal. So obviously, 70% of the country thinks it's okay, which means there's got to be a whole lot of Republicans in that, because there's just as many Republicans as there is Democrats.
Yeah, well, I love it when people, especially with me, I haven't had my most shining moments online, because I've dealt with depression, and I am using that as an excuse because it's the absolute truth. You deal with depression at a time when, for the most part, social media was still pretty new. When Facebook came along, it was different than MySpace. MySpace was just a platform where you could just meet people. There really wasn't, from what I remember, there wasn't places where you were blogging. That's what they used to call it, was blogging. Now it's...
Oh, no, MySpace had a blogging function. It was just harder to get to.
Okay, but what I'm saying is, but it was all dark, and it was just a different kind of a world for MySpace. This whole thing now, again, used to be called blogging, is now called, I just posted that.
Right.
And I got into developing, and this is my story, developing as a stand-up, or trying to develop. I was dealing with depression, but the fact that I was a proud American, I was, at the time, I was in the military, and I was very proud of my country and my service, and I got in, and I just saw this group of really hobbyist comedians that all they wanted to do was get up there and say whatever they wanted to say about straight people, cis, gender, this, that. I never even heard that word until recently, cisgender. But talk about straight wasn't a thing. Talk about police. I've heard some of the most horrible jokes about police and all kinds of stuff. But then when you get up there and you want to say, okay, it's a free-for-all, we're comedians, we should be able to make fun and joke about everybody.
Yep.
If you're a transgender person and you're a stand-up, beautiful. You get up there after you take your your hormone medicine, get up there and talk about the world that you see as a transgender. If you can't see that if we can't joke about a 58-year-old man that's 5'3" and weighs 285 pounds, wearing a dress and lipstick with a beard and back hair coming out of his dress, if we can't joke about that, then stand-up comedy ceases to exist.
Well, what I have found about that is one, know your audience. If you're in a room full of transgenders, don't make that joke. But
unfortunately, my audience was other comedians. For the most part.
And honestly, comedians for comedians is the worst audience you can have, because
they're not even listening to your stuff. They're thinking about what they just performed or when they're going back up.
Or they're listening and they're overanalyzing the jokes. They're trying to figure out how to steal it and make it their own. So they're absolutely the worst. But one of the some of the funniest gay bashing kind of jokes I ever heard was from a gay comedian who was up there talking about himself. Like, so you can do it. You just got to know your audience. And really important, some of the people who have been making these jokes, they're not funny.
No, absolutely, I agree.
You know, if your joke's not funny, it just seems like you're being mean.
When I first got to, but again, mean. I mean, what kind of world are we living in? So we want to have this world of erotica, porn, teaching 5-year-olds this and that, but yet we want to, when it comes to, that's my opinion on the attack on masculinity. There's a big word for you. Masculinity, about being a man and being proud to be a man. That's the attack on it, when everything is, well, that's mean and you shouldn't say this or that. Let me tell you something. Richard Pryor, Red Fox, George Carlin, I mean the old school, Bill Hicks, they didn't pull punches on jokes. When you're out there in front of when you're going to see a comedian on a Friday, Saturday night, and you just worked all week, and I use this one for whatever reason at Pep Boys, making, fixing tires and doing whatever Pep Boys people do with cars, you're there and you're sitting there, you're having a drink, you're wanting to relax. You don't want to hear everything with a Band-Aid on it. You want to talk about stuff. You want to hear about sex. You want to hear about just stuff that is funny, stuff that's sad, but comedians' jobs are to make it funny. And now the transgender community coming out against Dave Chappelle, first of all, it's hilarious that we talk about how black people and African Americans should be treated in this country, but when it doesn't meet the standard of the left-wing narrative, then we go right after a Dave Chappelle. They talk about, well, that's transphobic. And first of all, and now, Chris, I'm kind of doing what you did on the first three. I'm kind of taking over here a little bit, but let me say this. So phobia, we say Islamophobia, homophobia. It's a brilliant way to install your beliefs on other people. Am I right? Because guess what? If you don't believe in that and they throw that phobia on you, guess what they've done to you? They tagged you in society and you're now ostracized. What's your opinions on that?
Oh no, you're right. They do that a lot. But my thing is, you're saying Dave Chappelle got canceled. You know, he got canceled in 1 or 2 cities, but Dave Chappelle is still getting shows. He's still getting paid. He's still out there performing. And so what? You know, those 1 or 2 cities didn't want him to perform. He's better off without those.
Okay,
cities.
But what happens? What happens when it's 3 or 4 cities? Then it's 5 or 6 cities. Then 7 or 8 cities. Then we become like freaking Canada. I've talked to comedians before and heard interviews. You used to not be able to go to Canada as an American comedian and do most of your material because they were so easily offended. And that's what's happened here. That's my opinion on things.
And I think there'll be enough balance that we'll still be okay. He may not be performing in San Francisco, but he'll still be able to do work and just fine. There's actually been a little bit.
Oh, of course, he's a major headlining act. I'm just saying is.
Well, I'm not saying in general. There's been a big kickback against this cancel culture, which is a good thing.
There should be.
I mean,
there absolutely should be.
It's actually gotten better. Here lately, there's been more, and I'm gonna use Aziz Ansari and Johnny Depp as good examples of people who try to get them canceled because of what they supposedly did, but once everything came out, and Chris Hardwick too. It's happened to him.
Yeah,
they got everything back. Everything was fine. I mean, Johnny Depp just won.
Kevin Hart. They tried to get rid of Kevin Hart, going back and he actually apologized. That's the worst thing you could ever do is apologize.
Depends on the situation.
That is my opinion.
Depends on the situation.
Okay, but I'm saying I'm talking about cancel culture. Apologize.
Well, no, I'm not even talking about. Well, I am too. I mean, I'm gonna give it. I can't remember the exact person. I think. Oh, I do remember now. It was the director for Guardians of the Galaxy. Right.
Okay.
They went. I don't know why people are doing this, but they went back like 10 years ago to some tweets he did, and if you read them now, or actually, even if you read them then, they were horrible jokes that were highly offensive, and they weren't funny. He was trying to be a stand-up comedian, and it obviously didn't work. He now directs movies.
Rogan says Joe Rogan, that's done pretty well in entertainment and comedy, would tell you that, like a lot of other comedians before him would say, that comedy is subjective.
Oh no, it was it. But
you may not like it, but somebody else may like it.
But the point is, this is what I'm saying. It's okay to apologize. He went back. And not because he got canceled, because he got his job back. He got everything back because this stuff was from so long ago, right? It was
First of all, he shouldn't have had anything taken.
Well, no, he shouldn't have. Back. You're right, but he got it all back fairly quickly. But what he said was, he goes, I went back and looked at this. I realized at that time I thought this was right, but I realized now in my older age that, this wasn't right, and I apologize for it. And if that's the reason you're apologizing, because you actually looked back at something you did and had a little bit of regret, then I'm okay with you apologizing. Being forced to apologize and not really meaning it, is wrong. But sometimes, like, you could look back at some of the stuff you said when you were 18 or 19.
Yeah, but the good thing was, thank God, there wasn't the internet. The internet was there, but there was no place like Facebook, hell, MySpace. Let's see, 2002. No, it came out like 2000, didn't it?
Something like that.
MySpace? Yeah, so something like MySpace came out like 2000. So, and from what I understand, everything, you can't even log into your old MySpace account.
I don't know, Justin Timberlake bought it.
Yeah, well, he's not doing too great with it.
Well, actually, well, that's a different topic. He actually did pretty well with what he was going for.
Oh, okay. Well, then, if that was what he was going for. But my point is every time we always want to talk about the Nazis. We want to talk about restrictive people. We want to talk about societies where they restrict your speech. Let me tell you something. Again, these are no longer liberals that we're dealing with. These are communist people. That when they want to start removing what you can say and what you can't say because you may offend somebody, then we have lost everything that we've ever gained as a country, especially the First Amendment, which the First Amendment is the greatest document connected to the Bill of Rights, of course. Right. But it gives us everything that's connected to the Bill of Rights comes from the First Amendment. And if we want to continue to limit what people say because it's going to offend somebody, then we might as well just get rid of the whole kit and caboodle. We might as well just take stand-up comedy and tell people I moved to Las Vegas. I was so excited. And yes, I run my mouth and I say stuff and if you ever really listen to my stuff, you really can't go back and say that I said anything that was completely disgusting or horrible. It was the fact that you didn't like the fact that I existed. That was your problem with me. Not you, of course. Yeah. But I got to Vegas and I was so excited. I got to my first open mic, and can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, good. I got my headphones in a little too tight there. I got to my first open mic, and before we even started, they said, this guy was like from San Francisco or something. He goes, remember everybody, don't use the N-word unless you're black. And I saw a couple people, they didn't even realize it. They were just kind of looked down, and they were black, and they just kind of looked down to see how black they were. I mean, that's how bad it is. And but then he goes, besides that, everybody have fun. No hate speech. I always love that one. hate speech. What is hate speech? Is hate speech where I say that I don't want people to be that are babies, that we've talked about this before with abortion, that I don't agree with people using abortion as birth control? Is it hate speech when I say that I agree that a man and a woman makes the perfect household? That's my opinion.
Right. But that's not hate speech. No, it's not hate speech.
Yes. Okay. Then what's hate speech?
Hate speech is exactly what it is. It's truly hate speech because you don't hate those people. Hate speech, and yes, there's been massive overreach with the cancel culture, but hate speech exists right now. There's a website that's almost dedicated to hate speech, and they have that website, and they have their freedom of speech to be on here and say it, and it's called gab.com. It is just a plethora of white supremacists and racist people, and it's horrible, some of the stuff that gets said on here, but they're allowed to do it, and they get on there because gab.com allows it. But it's hate speech, and that is the thing right now. Like, there is hate speech in the world. There is people who are trying to push crazy, horrible agendas that are bad. And people are trying to stop those things, and they're overreaching and attacking actually good people. And it's a problem. Well, people need to be more focused on what is actual hate speech versus...
Exactly. And what is actual racism. Exactly. What's actual racism. But you know what's funny is, Ninja, is that we look at today's society, and right now it's a very civil society for the most part, wherever you live, to a large degree. Now, if you live in a cheaper area where it's a little less expensive, there's a reason why it's a little less expensive. You're probably living in a poverty-ridden area where the crime is high. If you take a look at, I use movies because they generally these days, a lot of them are autobiographies with a hint of Hollywood in it. Excuse me. Take a look at the gangs of New York. When they started establishing civilization in these major cities, man, let me tell you something. You go back, I don't know, 120 years right now, and you go to New York City to the slums and see the way people live, the Wild Wild West, the way that people are just shot and killed on an hourly basis, and the way people handled themselves. We are in a very civilized bubble right now of the history of the world right now. Mm-hmm. This has not always been the case. And people always act like, it's the end of this and that. And sometimes you wonder if it's the end of times the way certain things are. But overall, we've got it pretty damn good. We don't have flying. I may have mentioned this before. We don't have flying cobras flying through the air. So, like, you have somebody that comes on the news and says, remember today, folks, watch out for those flying cobras. If they they get you, you're dead. We don't have. We've got so much, and that's what's so crazy to me is people want to control people, but we're in a very, very civilized society opposed to where we have been with the human beings overall.
Oh yeah, like exactly, and there's people making mistakes. I want to have a discussion with you one day, probably for the next show, about the Pennsylvania gubernatorial candidate that is being supported by Gab.com, who literally said, are you ready? We don't want people who are Jewish. This is explicitly a Christian country. And this is the person the GOP nominated for governor in Pennsylvania. I want to talk to you about that next day, because this is where hate speech and trying to push a hate agenda comes into place, just like the Christian Nationalist original party was horrible. And that is definitely something we need to cover.
That's why I'm in the middle now, more in the middle than I've ever really been in my life. I'm more middle independent now, right-leaning independent. But, yeah, it's just a bunch of nonsense now. There's nobody that you can really look and say, wow, they really stand up for what I believe in. And I damn sure I can't ever see myself ever voting for a left wing Democrat. Now maybe someone that was a Democrat that was a moderate Democrat.
Well, you know, there's not as many left-wing Democrats as you think that are that extreme. There's like 5, and they all hang out together.
Nah, I would disagree with that one.
What I'm talking about, actually, in the Senate right now, there's the squad, which is like 5 people, and that's about it. There's the
Chuck Schumer.
No, he's not super left-leaning. He really no. He says what he has to in speeches and stuff, but when you actually go back and look through the bills and stuff they've tried to push through, he really brings it more towards the middle.
Nancy Pelosi.
Nope. So those are the 2 leaders of the party, right? It's the leader of the.
We're not going to be in the middle of the road on this one. That's for sure.
No, but you have to look at, and I do this the same thing with Republicans. When you get the leader of the party, right, and they're in charge of the progressive Democrats, the conservative Democrats, they're in charge of all of them, right? They have to keep all of them happy to get bills passed. So if you got to look what they put in each bill versus what they say in their speeches, because those that get up in speeches and go, yeah, we're going to do this, and this. That way AOC shuts up. And then when the bill actually comes out, you'll notice they carved out that whole section. Like the squad tried to push that whole big Green New Deal through, and Nancy Pelosi and Chuck Schumer cut that thing to pieces. So there is that certain amount of politics, which is what gets covered in the news, where they're saying the things to keep the party happy, but what they actually do, actions are stronger than words. And the Republican Party does the same thing.
I was gonna say, what about Nancy Pelosi talking about right now the border is on a good path, that she's excited to see as many undocumented citizens as ever before.
You're going to have to show me where she actually said that, because I haven't seen it. And I'm not saying you're wrong. I'm just saying I haven't seen it. Or if somebody took something she said out of context. Because she's
batshit crazy.
Well, she is batshit crazy, but at the same time, and they do the same thing to the Republicans, where they'll take a whole paragraph and they'll cut out one sentence out of it. And when you just take out that one sentence, it makes them look even worse than what they really are. But if you read the whole paragraph where it puts that sentence into context, it makes sense.
Newsweek.com, Nancy Pelosi sparks backlash for saying border on a good path. And this is Newsweek, so it's not one of those that's in the middle. It's generally to the left-leaning. After telling reporters that federal approach to managing immigration at the southern U.S. border is improving on Wednesday. The fact that we're on a good path at the border under the leadership of Joe Biden, the Democratic Congresswoman said, it's about restructuring how we do what is happening there. What we were in a very bad situation under the Trump administration. Actually, no, we weren't. We had illegal immigration down as low as it's been in decades. So, that's what I'm going to say about that.
Well, but at the same time, she's not saying she's so happy undocumented coming in. She's saying she thinks the border is on a good path, which is what you're supposed to say about the person in office, that you think they're doing a good job, which is a little bit different.
I do know that you need to go.
Oh, is it time already? I didn't even realize time was. Well, I'm going to hit y'all with one more bad joke, and then we're going to wrap it up for the day, because it is,
boy.
It is time. Well, no, it's not so horrible. It's just about me. I want to be an inspiration. I do. I want to be an inspiration to the world, like JFK. JFK was such an inspiration. He didn't want anybody to miss their shot.
So I sense a theme here. Back of the head with Abraham Lincoln. He was a secret homosexual. And now we're talking about JFK. I see a trend here.
Oh, I was writing some jokes, and I just got caught up on presidents. The whole Log Club Republican thing, though, that's a real party. It's a real group. You can look them up. I don't know how big they are right now, but at one point they actually were a pretty large part of the party. All right, Moonshine, I'm done with my bad jokes for today. You have a wonderful week, and what do we say at the end of the very podcast?
Go USA.
All right, guys, I hope you enjoyed that show and all the others on the Ninja Podcast Network. We have Angry Ninja Presents Not a Kid's Game, the currently defunct D&D podcast, but hopefully more episodes coming soon. The Ask the Angry Ninja Show podcast, Chris Allen's audio stories, where I read you some stories I wrote. And if you have a story you want to hear that you wrote, send it to me and I will read it. Middle of the Road with Ninja and Moonshine podcast about a guy from the left and a guy from the right coming together and meeting in the middle. The Ninja News and Politics Show, Outrageous Stories with the Angry Ninja, and Sports Talk with Ninja and JMO. And if you want to support the funny, support any of the shows, patreon.com/worstjokes. Come support the funny. If you want to reach out to us, at cman2342 on Twitter, or just get on Facebook, search for the Ask the Angry Ninja Show. You'll find our page. Ask us a question. Or if any of that's too much for you, you can just send us an email at asktheangryninja@gmail.com, and we will answer your question. Hope everybody enjoyed the show. You guys have a wonderful day.